Hey everybody, welcome to the Player Engage podcast. Greg here. We are coming to you live from GDC, and today my guest joining me is Bertrand Bodson, the CEO of Keywords, who I'm really excited to do my first live podcast with. Bertrand has an awesome background. He started with Boston Consulting Group. He was at EMI Music. He was a product manager at Amazon, and before Keywords, he came from Novartis, as he was the first chief digital officer there, and the person to help bring kind of the future and technology to a healthcare firm, and I think that's awesome. So first off, Bertrand, thank you so much for joining me today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with our group?
No, great to be here, and a great idea to do that from GDC. It's always a very energizing place, I guess.
You know, when there's gamers around, there's just energy going on.
True.
It's a fun place to be. And before we really get into the podcast, the one thing that really strikes me, and I'm really curious about the industry, is what did a young Bertrand aspire to do? You know, everyone dreams, or if you're a gamer, you want to run or be a part of a video game company. And looking at your background, it's funny, you went from all these different medias to Amazon to healthcare. Like, what did you want to be when you were growing up, and how did you end up here?
Oh, that's a big question. And truthfully, I was hoping to be a tennis player, but that clearly didn't work out. And I started my career fairly early at Amazon, where all we had a bit more than 20 years ago was called BMVD, books, music, video, and DVDs. And so video game was a big part of that. So it was definitely on the agenda. It was one of the 4 divisions. So it's really good to be back to that. I think it's an amazing industry. It's a fascinating one. There's a lot of fashion. At the end of the day, we're serving almost 3.5 billion players across the planet. I have 3 young kids. I'm very popular with my children as well in there. And what I really love about this industry, and maybe about Keywords in particular as well, is like it's very entrepreneurial. There's still so much to be invented. There's so much to be shaped. I get the chance to work with entrepreneurs every single day. And as much as there are some tougher times out there, I think this is an ideal moment to really go and imagine more and to really create amazing experiences, quite frankly. And often you get some of the best inventions, the best creations are coming from those times where you have to think a bit differently. So I think we have a few exciting years ahead of us.
Yeah, I agree. Well, you mentioned your entrepreneurial spirit, and one of the articles I read talked about when you were making the decision to come to Keywords, part of the idea was you wanted to take over more of a global entrepreneurial venture, and it seems like such a cool opportunity. And it boggled my mind when I first read that you came from healthcare, because I was like, that's awesome, but where healthcare and gaming really connect, I didn't get it. The more I read about kind of what it was, is that you came into Novartis, I think around 2017, 2018, and you were there to bring technology, kind of look at their data. And some of the things I was reading about online was awesome. That first of all, I didn't realize healthcare was embracing AI as much as they are. And then I was reading things that you were taking a look at, or you were thinking of how you can look at all the patient data over the years and start looking at that. And first I thought, how come they weren't already doing that? And it makes sense, but I guess it doesn't make sense until it does. So I guess, can you go and tell us a little bit what you've learned from Novartis and the healthcare and how that can transition to the gaming world?
Yeah, sure. So at Novartis, we used to serve about 800 million patients every year. So there was a big mission of also imagining more on behalf of patients. Technology was a very big play. An incredible amount of data, very responsibly handled, as you can imagine, a lot of clinical trials, big productions as well, not too dissimilar to here. It took us, on average, 12 years and $2.5 billion to get a drug over the line. So you can see when we talk about multi-hundred millions and several years to get a AAA over the line, there are some similarity. And technology had to be part of the solution. Data was a big part of the solution, to the point that now healthcare is seriously looking into what we call in silico modeling. So how can you, instead of having to do just physical experiments in a very linear way, how can you really model that? How can you model what patients could do? How can you have digital twins of patients themselves as part of it? So technology was really much at the core. You are spot on. And then beyond that, it's all largely as well about leadership, about geographic footprints. I think I find that back in Keywords in big ways. Again, a lot of entrepreneurs. There's, I think, a great culture as well. How do you make sure you keep the entrepreneurial side of all of our studios, while at the same time making it work as one Keywords, not too dissimilar to what I had as Novartis, where we have 6 different therapeutic areas. How do you make it cohesively work for the patients or for the players in this case? Global geographic footprints, Keywords, we have 26 countries now, which I really enjoy. You end up a lot in a plane, but that's part of the job of it, the joy of it. We have a lot of technology that we're bringing in. Really, AI technology is a big one. At the same time, a lot of M&A, a lot of transactions as well, but where we are trying to really make it work from, at the end of the day, is there a good cultural fit, is the best of the best quality, and then do the financial work, but that's the end of the process itself. It's much more about the seed that we find altogether. So, bizarrely, maybe to your question, a lot of similarities on technology, a lot of similarities on leadership, a lot of similarities in terms of global footprint, and probably an aspiration to do something that hasn't been done before and to transform the industry.
I love the fact that, I read that you were talking about at Novartis about how long it takes a drug to get to market and how you just compare that to a AAA game. It's like, you're right, you don't think about it, but a game is a process, it takes a long time, and a drug is a process, it takes a long time. But maybe we could skip ahead a little bit. You mentioned AI, and I think everyone comes on the podcast and they all want to always talk about AI, and you get this special privilege of running a large company that has to deal with AI and has to take a look at it carefully and say, how do we want to use this technology? How can we improve it? What do we want to do? We don't want to burn any bridges. We want to make sure we're ethically using AI. So how do you make these decisions? And do you allow your own studios to look at it themselves, or is it something you're thinking it's got to be a big picture thing for everyone?
Yeah, so very important topic for us collectively, for the industry. Of course, a very emotive topic as well, as you're touching in the very core of ethical questions about IP rights on that. So the approach we have taken is, of course, in the context of really responsible AI, where at the end of the day, we do it on behalf of our publishers, of our clients, of our partners. We would always do it in partnership. So that's absolutely clear. We have maybe two different approaches depending if it's in production or post-production. On the production side, we don't necessarily feel that we need to own the stack itself. There's so many innovations happening. There's so many startups, from big ones to the OpenAI, of course, to Midjourney, to DALL-E 3, to Gemini, etc., all the way to smaller startups in environment build, or Charisma into Seas, or Havoc, for example, in physics, in middleware. So how do we assess all that? We see our role as we're fortunate to have 4,500 engineers, designers, technical artists, creative talent, creative engineering. That's an incredible force for good to be able to test those 400, 500, 600 players that are basically out there. So how do we stay 2-3 steps ahead on behalf of our partners, so that it's not about AI good or AI bad, it's about how can we get to the granularity to assess what works, what doesn't work, under which circumstances. I'll come back on that. Separately from that, on post-production, there we want to own more of the stack, because we feel that we have a right to act on behalf of the industry. It's not necessarily what publishers want to do every single day in terms of testing, in terms of localization, in terms of the stack to do player engagement. But we have the privilege to work for most of the top 25 and for newcomers as well. How can we be an aggregator in each of those? We have made some moves with Helpshift in particular, where you're coming from, with Mighty Games, which I see in the background, with Kantan AI, with Xlog. So I think this is an incredible potential stack that we could use with the right humans, with the right talent behind, and the combination of the two can help being way more efficient and to create better player experiences as well. So that's a bit the way we're thinking about it. And production, how do we stay 2-3 steps ahead and really get a grip collectively with the muscle that we have on what is happening with our partners. On the post-production side, it's more about how do we build, and we're investing now. We have, to give you a sense, we have 250 heads or product development engineers, including at Helpshift, who are effectively building that stack for the future for the industry, which I think is an important step and an important investment for us.
Yeah, that's a great point. We did a podcast a few weeks ago with Stephen Peacock. And he runs our head of games AI for those who are listening. And you know, everyone's talking about AI now, and everyone just goes directly to Gen AI and how it's going to impact the industry. But I love that you're talking about in production, because these tools do help testing. They help make things go quicker. It helps make the process, and you don't want to fall behind in technology. So it's important to make sure you at least know what's going on, where you can implement it ethically, responsibly. And it kind of goes down to the next question, right?
And if I may, Greg, I want to make a small plug of a project we're talking about later today, and literally in an hour from now here at GDC, which is Project Eva. So on the production side, the question we had with Ashley, with Stephen Peacock, with Jamie and the team was, how do you assess 400 tools, 400 partners, and it's moving so fast, and to some extent it's scaringly exciting at the same time. So that's where a year ago we started at Project Eva. There was Electric Square, one of our studios, raised their hands of saying, like, what if we were to build a shippable game? The intent was not necessarily to ship it, but a shippable game, so that we worked on a real practical applications together to see what works, what doesn't work in which circumstances. And I'm really proud to see that every month that goes by, we have had actually more and more of our studios involved. We now have 7 studios involved behind Eva. They've been testing real life with what works in which circumstances. How do you unlock the APIs? How do you connect different of those partners together? Guess what? As soon as you get into character build, you need more and more designers to make sense of it and to make sure that those characters can also be consistent as the technology keeps evolving, or as you build your games. We need really people to understand are those players even going to be alive in 3 years from now, which is important when you're building for the long term. So which ones are really rock solid, which ones can we help? You need legal and ethical implications as well to understand which ones are absolutely no-go because you cannot trace it back and it's completely black box. To be very clear about it, half of them actually fell at that hurdle, but which ones are actually really interesting and where it's with partners we can bring them over the line. So I love that experiment of what we've been doing there because it's an R&D project, but it gets closer to that goal of having our 4,500 engineers or the technology creatives to be naturally curious about it and to build. And it gives a good, I think, thought process, almost innovation process and machine so that with partners more and more, we can go and test and think a few steps ahead.
It's interesting. I'm curious, it's cool that Electric Square raises their hand and puts their hands up, but is there common feedback, and maybe you're not quite sure yet, from the studios that have been working on it that are learning just internally? Like, you're obviously testing different tools, right? You're probably testing Midjourney, DALL-E, all the other image generations, but is there like a common theme that, humans are still needed? Like, this worked, but it's not good, or is there like a common thing you are hearing?
Well, the interesting piece is that it's like every month that goes by, the team is asking me for more and more resources. So it's like humans are definitely needed, domain experts are really needed. The key is how do you get the domain experts to be uber curious about it, which tools can give them superpowers. So no surprise that we sort of probably all expected that, we all know that. Like in the age of technology, right? Yeah. From Unreal 1 to Unreal 5.4, from Unity, from proprietary engine, at the end of the day, the more they become sophisticated, the more advanced the technology becomes, the more you need domain experts and the more you need engineers. We traced that data, we showcased it publicly a few months ago, where the more technology evolves, we've seen a 5x increase in number of engineering type of capabilities that have been needed over the last decade alone. Just think about the type of budget that we have here in the games. I think AI in a broader way is just an extra tool, an extra superpower in the hands for the ones who are going to use well, but hopefully we're going to unlock some new potential here.
Yeah, I want to come back to that point because as you mentioned, there's more people now getting involved, but I feel like that's also expanding the process of how long it takes. Like you mentioned the AAA game to launch, how do you juggle that? How do you, I guess AI helps increase the speed at which you could put that stuff out there, but I do want to come back to that. But first, with these projects, right, you often hear about I'm looking at the big studios, the AAA studios that own multiple studios, and some companies you hear have a lot of oversight, like you have to follow these rules, you have to do that. There's some studios that let all the subsidiaries do whatever they want for the most part. How do you find a juggling act when you're running about 23 different studios internally? Like, how do you manage how much hands-on or how much hands-off you need to be with those studios?
In that, being an entrepreneur myself, having not my own business at the time, in that I always go back to the entrepreneurial side. So I think it's very, very tempting to bring things too closely together. You think it's optimized, I prefer to leave a little bit less optimized, but entrepreneurs always win at the end of the day in my book, and certainly on all the creative areas. So if I separate, maybe break the different areas in the create area, which is game dev and art, we have about indeed 25 studios. There, to me, I want each of them to be able to run their P&L. They have all their own creative ways of working. But where we put some, I would say, cohesiveness behind it is we have organized the studios across regions as well, so that as region heads, we can think about talent development across a region more consistently, for example. We can think about, when we do M&A, of how do we find the right talents that are behind. When we think about career management, we can also do that in a cohesive way there. It makes also, from a leadership point of view, a bit easier to get to also get progress in your own career as part of it. That's one side of the world. I think that's working quite well. We're finding that we call it one keyword. So it's a balancing act all the time between the entrepreneurial side at the same time making sure that we have the right rigor. And there are a few things on the back end in terms of infosec, cybersecurity, in terms of course finance reporting, in terms of HR, IT, etc. There we're trying to be systematic to have the muscle of it. Think about that the other way around. What's in it in the shoes of a studio? I would hope that if we do it well, we can be servant leaders to a studio where they can get access to bigger partnership, bigger publishers, bigger titles, bigger piece that they could do on their own. If they really make the best of everything that Keywords has to offer, they can tap into the technology know-how that we have across the group. We don't have to overly worry about cybersecurity because we can also handle that at broader scale and make the right investment behind. There is career growth as well, where they can tap into new talent pools as well behind. So always invite our students to make the best of what keywords is to work more broadly there. In areas like global dance, there it's a bit different because that's testing capability, localization, audio development. There is more the one single brand. It's really the keyword brands, where there we want to be 20, 30% more efficient than what an individual publisher could do. And that's why having the right showing across the globe, having the right capabilities around the world, all over the place, whether it's between Montreal, between Poland, between Mexico, between India, between China. I think there's a really good offering there for our brands, and that's where tech also comes in on the post-production side. How can we be way more efficient? How can we be way more scalable? And the best of human and the best of technology to be able to serve actually the tsunami of content that is coming, if you think about it, in the next decade. Think about the content being created, it needs to be tested. Think about what will come through technologies, it needs to be tested, and that's where I think our teams are really brilliant at that. So there's more the keywords umbrella, but with consistent level up type of ranking, career opportunity as well around those. So that's a bit how we think about one keyword. Big entrepreneurship within the studio and the creative jewels, likewise in Engage, and at the same time, the sort of big machine, super efficient as well, with the right talent and human and leaders on the post-production side.
Yeah, that's awesome, man. And we've spoken to a few of the studios on these podcasts, and you can tell they're happy, right? Something like they have that freedom. They can still do what they love. And I know you keywords labs is a thing now where we're trying to kind of get some new innovation, new technology. Maybe we could all align in certain places where there's inefficiencies. And I love how, you have these happy studios that can start to collaborate on things if they're using the same tools and using everything. And I think you just make better games when everyone's kind of working together. They have their freedom and you don't take their identity away. And I think it's the entrepreneurial spirit. Like, they built this baby, it's their baby. They want to maintain their baby.
Absolutely, and that would be my biggest pride. It's like everybody feels that it's their baby. And John Hope, who is our CEO, tends to joke with me of saying, I can go on holiday for 6 months, it just runs. And he's right. It's like that's the beauty of getting to work with entrepreneurs. Now, part of what we're trying to build is actually broader infrastructure that goes behind, as the right culture, hopefully across the group as well. I think what I love in particular around keywords, and I don't take that for granted, is that there is a natural culture of collaboration as well. People want to work together, people see bigger opportunity together. Even when we do M&A, half of the time we spend when we do an M&A is just to say a cultural fit. Do I want to work together? Look, we had a keywords event last night, 700-800 guests. We invite a lot of new players who are interested in keywords to join us and just to get a sense of what does it feel to be inside as well. So I think that's critically important. There's a soft ingredient to make all that work.
Thank you. That's a great answer. And I want to take a little pivot here towards the next question. 2023 was kind of a weird step in the gaming industry, for lack of better words. Looking forward, there's a lot of positives that came out of 2023. We've had some fantastic games that came out. It was a great year for the gamer. Working in gaming was a little tougher towards the end of the year with what was happening in the industry. But as we come into 2024, the gaming community is coming together. They're looking for new opportunities. Are there things out there that you think, or information that you think is important for gamers to know about this industry? I don't even know if this question makes sense now that I'm saying it out loud, but...
It does. I think maybe, I know it always sounds a little bit like it has been a tougher environment than in some of the COVID years, if I can say that way. But let's not forget as well some amazing things that happened last year. First and foremost, you're right, we had amazing titles coming out, right? It was absolutely spectacular. Look at the Game Awards in December. I'm very proud, by the way, that there was a piece of keywords inside 70% of the winners of the Game Awards. That's something that, as keywordians who are listening in as well, we should be super proud about. It's I've been the humble servant of the industry, but great to be able to contribute to that. As a business, we had about 13% growth last year. We're a bit more on the picks and shovels in the industry, but that gives us also a moment to give a choice from a leadership point of view to make in those years. It's like, do you go and anchor down? On the contrary, do you go and invest in your setup? So, of course, we have the short term to manage. I want to make sure that we absolutely serve our clients super well. And at the same time, how do we invest in those platforms? Everything where, Greg, you asked me earlier in terms of, or we're talking about in terms of tech innovations, how do you build the post-production tech platform as well behind? That's 250 professionals, product developers that we have behind. Those are big choices that we're making because we see a bright future coming up. And again, I'm probably optimistic, but I see a lot of green shoots coming in. Quite frankly, right now, we're having amazing discussions all over the place happening. Some are even using this time to reconsider their own business model as partners. Hopefully we can be good partners and play a role as well. and making the best of it so we come stronger together at the end of that. Some have amazing titles that are in the making. Some are looking at what the technology play could be. Hopefully we can guide. So I think that we still have some work to do this year to navigate for that as an industry together. But I'm super optimistic for what is coming. And you're back to this theme of entrepreneurship, which is our industry is really good at being innovative at the end of the day. And that's why I would favor entrepreneurs every day of the week, because that's where we'll come up with new experiences together, we'll come up with new formats, we'll come up with new approaches. I see many studios where saying what is really the core and where can I surround myself with the right partners to be able to do that in a very, very scalable way. A lot of the seeds of the next decade are happening right now.
It's funny you mentioned this, but we're on the floor of GDC right now, and maybe Adam, can you just turn the camera and show the booth? I got him working. See, I have an employee now, kind of. But like, we're hiring, right? There's people here, and a lot of people are looking for work, and they all still have smiles on their face. I think it's just something about the industry. It's a tough time, but we're all still gamers, and people know there's going to be work again. We came off a high, I guess you could call it, during the pandemic years, and kind of self-correcting now. But I like everything you said. The entrepreneurial spirit. Hopefully, we get a bunch of indie studios that start to build up. We got a lot of creative minds out there, and I think it's a trappy time, but I think it's an exciting time for gaming, because I think we're around the corner. There's going to be some great stuff that comes out there.
Absolutely. And we're definitely hiring, and honestly, we're fine. I mean, look, we're building our engaged proposition as well, big time. I think it's sort of a mini keyword in the making in its own right. Now we have great capabilities in terms of trainers, in terms of social marketing with studios like digital media management, for example. Like we have building as well capabilities with help shift in the entire VIP proposition community management, in PR, and then there's much more to be created there. And there we only have a few pieces of the puzzle. We want to bring it together in a super cohesive proposition. We need some of the best talent for that. On engineering, on the creative side, absolutely. If we could find an extra 500,000 super talent tomorrow, I would take them on right away, frankly. I think the team would as well. On Globalize, we're building something that is quite unique, where many publishers are thinking about moving their fixed cost to variable cost. This is an interesting moment where we can generally go and help and create value with the network and the strengths that we have in Globalize. We haven't talked about the media and entertainment space with LED, with what DMM does as well in that space. That's an entire new adjacency. It's a $200 billion market, by the way, where most are turning now to the gaming industry to look at how do you do in-game with real-time, with Unreal, with your type of capabilities. That's super exciting about what we could do there. And look at the other way around. When you look at Disney, Lego coming into a space, Disney putting $1.5 billion into Epic. Epic growing like there's no tomorrow as well. Incredible wins as well with Lego, with racing, with concerts going into there. Let's not forget all those experiences as well that are also coming up. And I think we have a role to play there. But how do we guide those steps? How do we help create the right content in those types of setup? More importantly, how do we create the right experiences all around for the community that makes sense? So again, there need that to be imagined.
Yeah, and on that note, right, I'm looking everywhere in the booth, and we have our logo, and under it says "Imagine More," and that's been the tagline of Keywords for a little bit of time now. So, why is Imagine More?
Exactly as you said, because it's easy to be very tactical about it. I really was. The team pushed me on that. I think they're right. It's more aspirational. It's more. It fits us. I think it fits the industry. Quite broadly, it fits. I would say even to go beyond the boundaries that we have as well, including media entertainment and some other. Who are coming in, who are doing transmedia, because there's so much to be invented, and it doesn't have to be just a creative side. It can also be technology to make it scalable. But how do we imagine more really together with our partner? And I think that will give us a bright future if we keep anchoring and coming back to that.
Yeah, I agree. I think that makes sense, and that's well said. And something just out of the ordinary, but like, something that's really cool about Keywords, and it's just, we had a party last night, and I'm sitting around talking to our own employees, and I'm learning what they do, and it still just boggles my mind, all the stuff that we did. It's like a learning experience for me. I was talking to people from FQA, that's functional QA testing, and it's just such a cool experience. So anyone that is out there eventually looking for their next career, everything is at Keywords. We can handle anything from a small little project of DLC to providing customer support, and I think that's what I love being there. It's just, it's like curiosity kills the cat. You're just so curious on what everyone does and how they do it. It's just mind-boggling. And I give you credit for keeping that spirit alive, that entrepreneurial spirit, where people do get excited about being able to do work.
And that's what Imagine More is all about. It's like, I like the way you radiate when you talk about that. It's like if we can all be a bit more the kid side in us and being curious about it, curious about technology, curious about the games, curious about the dynamics, play the games themselves, curious about what others around us at GDC also doing. We don't have to have all the answers ourselves, so there is really a notion of partnership here as well to do that. And you're right, I wanted to make a plug for our colleagues in FQA, in LQA, and NUP as well. We have about more than 5,000 colleagues around the world doing an amazing job every day. At the end of the day, they are the unsung hero of the games. If those games are make or break depending on the quality of it, they are the guardian of that, using technology, using the smarts, using the experiences, finding the fun into those. And one thing I'm really proud of is when we do town halls together with the 13,000 keywordians, is when I see some of our best and brightest would maybe starting in QA and then progressively ramp up actually and level up through their career, and all of a sudden decide to use that as a springboard to go into more maybe engineering or into other areas of the business. I can see some friends around here who are studio heads who are really, really good at that. That's one of my biggest pleasures as well, is through that curiosity to do career moves. And we always try the town hall to show 3 or 4 who just embody that but actually. So if you are proactive, if you are curious, I think the world belongs to you quite broadly.
So usually in the middle of the podcast, which we're way past, I'd like to do like this fire round where I'm going to ask you very basic questions. Can I ask you these quick questions?
Sure.
All right. Normally, not now because we're at GDC, what do you eat for breakfast?
Cereals and fruits.
Okay. What, if you were to go to a bar, what drink are you ordering?
Martini would be, if I'm really in a festival mood, I guess. Otherwise, probably a Diet Coke.
Last game you played?
Just before coming here, I played 11 on VR. I know not necessarily the most mainstream, but big fan of it. I think the realism of it is absolutely incredible on Quest.
Last book you read?
Last book I read, I'm reading a fiction book from Harlan Coben right now, which is a bit spooky, but it relaxes me.
And last question, what is the best tennis open? And you can't say French Open, I feel like this is going to be a cop-out.
I live in the UK, so I'll go for Wimbledon.
All right, Wimbledon. Awesome. I have one last question for you, Bertrand. I know you're busy and you got a lot going on. This question I like to ask people is, what keeps you up at night?
Ashley, well, I'm fortunate. I have 3 kids, super family, they're age 13, 12, 9. Often people are looking for what troubles you, but actually I'm at a happy place right now. It feels like a happy balance in my life. If I had to pick one thing that puts me on fire, gets me really, really going and excited and pumped, is how do we build a platform for the industries? So I'm proud of our mission statement at Keywords. It's like, if we do our job right, thanks to us, publishers can think about creating their games, creating new experiences very differently. They can have a partner they can rely on, not just an outsourcer at arm's length. They can really have a partner from the get-go. It can have impact on their business model, on their cost structure, on the creative tools that they can bring to imagine more, to dream bigger. They can count on us to invest in technology to be able to take some of the loads up as well. That's what keeps me up at night. It's the short term, but I have a great team who is running that day to day. I think you gain back to the entrepreneurial spirit, but fundamentally it's like there's such an opportunity to imagine more and to create something special. How do we make sure that we don't miss that window to be able to do that? I cannot think of a better time for that.
Bertrand, this has been an honor and a privilege, and thank you so much for cutting out a little bit of your time today to come talk to me and our audience. Before you do leave for the rest of the day, is there anything you want to share?
It's great that you did that at GDC. It's good to get the energy and the buzz around us as well. So I'll keep exploring a little bit.
Perfect. Bertrand, thank you so much for joining us today. We'll have information about Keywords, about Bertrand on our Player Engage website, so come check it out. And we'll be sending you more clips on GDC, so stay tuned.
Thanks everyone.
Have a great day.